She was not a name, not in the sense humans understood it. Her species functioned on frequency, sent markers, subtle electromagnetic pulses. She had a designation, encoded within her bioelectric aura, but for translation purposes, she was the Silent One, and she had never failed a mission. She drifted silently through the vacuum of space, her infiltration pod landing with zero audible output on the surface of an isolated human research outpost in the She-Kappa system. No alarms, no alerts, no detection. Predictable. She had studied their technology, their behavioral routines, their naive over-reliance on visual and auditory surveillance. A species that could barely sense in 6 dimensions, arrogant enough to believe itself secure. Pathetic. The hull of the outpost was crude but functional. Typical of human frontier engineering. Modular, stark. Metal plates weathered from micrometeorite impacts. Inside, heat and sound. Vibrations of clumsy bipeds, moving through corridors like aimless prey. She activated her cloaking field, already unnecessary, and moved with the fluid grace of a creature born in null gravity. Her task was observation and subtle disruption. No casualties, just enough confusion to delay their expansion, to provoke retreat. This planet was too close to her people's transit routes. A permanent human presence here would complicate operations, so she would undo it. Quietly, in the first cycle, she mapped the outpost's internal structure, embedded herself within its systems. Their data cores were laughably unprotected, relying on physical barriers and rudimentary encryption. She bypassed them using her internal filament probes, accessing schedules, research logs, maintenance rotas. Human researchers cataloged flora and fauna with obsessive curiosity, their notes full of metaphor and unscientific musing. She ignored most of it. In the second cycle, she began minor disruptions, altered environmental controls to create discomfort, adjusted nutrient delivery to induce fatigue, removed key calibration files from their instruments. They noticed, of course, but attributed it to their own incompetence. She monitored them watching each other suspiciously, bickering, efficient. But then came the anomaly, a human male, mid-30s by their standards, low in hierarchy, quiet. He never spoke unnecessarily, never argued, never even looked fully at others. He moved through the outpost like a shadow. She noticed him because he noticed things. Not her directly. That was impossible. But his eyes flicked towards slight disturbances in airflow. He paused at doorways she passed through. Once, as she brushed by his workstation, he shivered. She ran diagnostics on her cloaking field. No errors. She was invisible, inaudible, insensible. It had to be coincidence. Still, she started watching him. A simple behavioral scan turned into continuous observation. He always took the same path to the mess hall, always tapped the console twice before entering his lab, always hummed the same 5-note pattern. Routine. Predictable. Yet every so often, he broke that pattern, only when she was near. On day 12, she removed a cooling subroutine from the atmospheric processors. A minor change, barely perceptible. That evening, he wore heavier clothing. On day 14, she slowed water filtration to create an odor of organic decay. He commented to no one in particular, "Smells like something's breathing in the walls." He shouldn't have known. There were no sensors capable of detecting her biological emissions. And yet, she recorded his vitals and found that his pulse spiked when she passed. Was it fear? Awareness? She accelerated her efforts, induced false data into their ecological survey, deleted 3 days of progress on a critical analysis, trapped them in a recursive software loop that forced a full reboot of their central AI. Each time, he responded not with confusion, but focus. He began isolating variables, narrowing down time frames, even setting up crude motion detectors in areas she frequented. Pointless tech. But the pattern was clear. He suspected. Her people had always laughed at the human's limitations. Sensory blind, emotionally erratic, fragile in both body and mind. Yet here was a single human, cutting through probability with instinct. No formal training in detection, no equipment, just observation. She tried to remove him, not through direct violence, that would compromise her purpose, but by engineering a plausible accident, a shifted grab plate in his walkway, a loose support brace in the maintenance tunnel, a minor power surge when he used his console. Nothing worked. He sidestepped the grab plate, took a different route, disconnected just before the surge. Coincidence piled upon coincidence until it stopped feeling coincidental. She began to feel watched. She ran a system-wide diagnostic. Nothing. Checked internal field integrity. Perfect. Still, his eyes flicked toward her, not often, not directly, just enough. On day 20, he left a note on his console, not addressed to anyone, just 3 words. I see you. She froze. Not physically, but mentally. Reviewed logs. No one else had access his terminal. The message hadn't been transmitted, just typed and left. She did not panic. She was not designed to panic. But she began recalculating threat variables. The human was aware, perhaps not consciously, perhaps only as an intuition. But awareness was the precursor to danger. She considered aborting. But protocol dictated observation until mission parameters were achieved or compromised. She could not yet prove compromise. On day 21, he changed his behavior. He stopped avoiding others. He started speaking, subtly redirecting conversation, asking innocuous questions about system failures, suggesting additional security protocols. Slowly, the humans began closing doors she used, disabling access ports she favored. Not aggressively, not directly, like a trap tightening. That night, her cloaking field fluttered. For a full half-second, it dropped to 70% efficiency. Her systems compensated. But when she turned, he was standing at the end of the hallway, staring straight at her. She fled. Not visibly, not chaotically. She retreated to a maintenance shaft, activated thermal dampeners, and began rerouting power from auxiliary systems. She needed to verify that he couldn't follow. She set a dozen decoys through the corridors. Holograms, sound loops, chemical trails. He ignored them all. Every time she moved, he was nearby, not directly intercepting, just present, enough to know she had moved, enough to let her know he had seen. She tried to communicate with her superiors, but her transmitter was jammed. She checked internal systems and found a loop frequency. Her signal had been redirected. They were listening to her. They were always listening. It wasn't just him. She checked her original landing coordinates. Satellite coverage had increased. Surveillance drones buzzed higher altitudes, crisscrossing in overlapping patterns. The Outpost data hub showed no logs of these deployments. Stealth units. Human ones. Her mission was compromised. She prepared for extraction. Except her ship was gone. Not destroyed. Moved. As if someone had found it, studied it, and relocated it. The camouflage netting remained, but the underlying shape was subtly different. She triggered the remote ignition. Nothing happened. She did not sleep. Her kind did not require it, not as humans did. But she entered a state of low-function stasis, a meditative analytical loop, sorting data and probability fields. Now, even that process failed to stabilize. Every calculation came up short, corrupted by uncertainty. He had changed the parameters. He had seen her, tracked her, turned her advantage into his weapon. But how? She reviewed her entire mission log, line by line, timestamp by timestamp. She analyzed the behavioral shifts. The exact moment patterns broke. It wasn't coincidence. It was design. He had baited her, lured her with predictability, forced her to act more aggressively, to reveal herself through small ripples, and then close the trap. She considered surrender. But to whom? Official first contact was still years away. Any attempt to reveal herself could be interpreted as an act of hostility. Worse, it could compromise her species' existence. Protocol demanded self-erasure before capture. Yet this didn't feel like capture. It felt like a conversation, one he was controlling. She watched the Outpost transform. Shift by shift, unit by unit, everything changed. Access corridors rerouted. Internal mapping corrupted. Even lighting patterns were modified. The humans adapted their behavior, without discussing it openly. No official logs, no meetings, like a silent consensus, had formed to constrain her. Not isolate, not contain, guide. He was the center of it. She accessed internal comm logs. Nothing unusual, but patterns emerged. Short phrases passed through shared workspaces. Code words, maybe, references to unrelated projects timed precisely with her movements. A form of indirect signaling, coordination through ambiguity. She could barely detect it, yet it was working. On day 24, she tried to escape. Not full retreat, just reposition. She entered the drone garage, intending to hijack a survey unit. But every drone was already active mid-mission, their schedules overlapping in ways that left no gaps in coverage. She tried to deactivate one. The system rejected her. She rerouted through a back door. It accepted her command, but the drone returned with a blinking red tag, observed. She deleted the record. 10 minutes later, a technician entered and performed a manual audit, found the erased entry, didn't react, just logged it again. He knew she was watching. He wanted her to see. Her fear became anger, not emotional rage. Her kind did not emote as humans did, but a tactical response. Anger was recognition of a persistent threat. She shifted strategy. No more sabotage. No more observation. She would confront him. Direct engagement risked exposure. But he had already exposed her. The balance was gone. She waited outside his quarters. 3 hours. He exited, calm. He looked down the hallway and stopped. His gaze landed where she stood. No reaction, just a slight nod. He walked to the comms room. She followed, as always silent, as always invisible. Inside, he began typing. Not a message, a program. Short, elegant code. A data package composed of fragments from their systems. Her fragments. Environmental logs from the exact time she'd acted. Sensor readings aligned with her known activities. The data was fuzzy but conclusive enough to show pattern. He compiled the program, encrypted it, and uploaded it to an isolated server node disconnected from central control. Then he turned around and said aloud, "You choose what happens next." She recoiled. He was alone. No one else heard him. Yet the sentence wasn't a question. It was a statement of power. He exited, left her with the code. She accessed it. It was a gift and a warning. He had built a tool that would expose her if released. It would verify her existence to the Outpost, to Earth, to the entire species. But it was isolated, dormant, not transmitted. She could destroy it, or use it. On day 27, she accessed the Outpost greenhouse. Not for sabotage. She had done that before. But to observe. The plants were thriving again. The humans had corrected the synthetic sunlight ratios. They had adapted even there. She found his workstation nearby. A personal log was open. She read it. It contained no classified data, just a journal. Thoughts, musings, entries about the feeling of being watched, the fear of hallucination, the resolve to trust his instincts even when others doubted him. Then, on day 16, the entries changed. Became confident. Each line a breadcrumb, a countermeasure, a counterpoint to her strategies. He had made her the subject of his own experiment. She should have felt insulted. Instead, she felt clarity. On day 28, she left a message in return. Not a note, not human words. A frequency pulse embedded in the station's magnetic field, resonating in a range receptible only to his senses if assisted by proper filters. He heard it. He looked up from his console, paused, then typed a reply in a simple text file. Still here. Still your move. It wasn't arrogance. It was trust. She didn't understand it at first. Trust was a chemical game to humans. Pheromones, neural reward cycles, subconscious mirroring. But this was different. He had built a connection based not on shared language or even purpose, but mutual respect through opposition. A chess game where both players knew the end and chose to continue regardless. She modified the frequency, coded it into a multi-band response. Acknowledge. Cease hostility. Observe neutral. He responded by disabling the containment locks. A signal. He wouldn't trap her. Not unless she forced it. She accessed the isolated server. The weapon. She copied the data and rewrote it, not to delete her presence, but to frame it as a test, a training protocol run by Earth Command, a simulation to evaluate human awareness and response under anomalous conditions. It was technically plausible, a lie built on truth. She uploaded the new narrative. No alarms triggered, no interventions. The crew read the announcement as a delayed briefing. They accepted it, smiled, laughed at their own paranoia. He didn't smile. He looked into the nearest camera, acknowledged her choice, then returned to work. Day 30. Her mission file auto-archived. Mission status, complete. Subversion neutralized. Human presence stable. Probability of continued interference, minimal. She remained, not out of necessity. Out of interest, she started assisting. Quietly, routing system errors to appropriate repair crews before they occurred. Adjusting temperature flow to optimize comfort. Enhancing data sorting algorithms subtly so researchers made faster discoveries. The humans attributed the improvements to software updates. He didn't. He left another note, a simple sentence. We'd welcome you, someday. It was illogical, naive, yet something in it carried weight. She filed a report to her people. Data only, no recommendations, no emotion, but within it, she included a phrase uncharacteristic of her kind. They're not what we thought. She ended the report with a timestamp, a marker, day 31. The first day, she chose not to hide.